Guys, two heads up here. This is my first in the string of economic videos, RuneScape economic videos I'm making. And this video is top 10 tips for merching an old school RuneScape. Now, merching can mean a few different things. Some people view it as a quick flip, a quick way to make cash. If that's what you're looking for, this guide is not for you. How I view merching is passive income, just like retirement would be in real life. You work, right? And then you save up for your retirement. Your retirement builds uh, passively over time. It grows and grows and grows without you having to put any effort into it. That is how I view merching in old school RuneScape. So let's dive right into it. I've got my notes here, and here are my top 10 tips. So I'll go over the first one. Never sell your basics. Now, what someone's basics is all relative, right? As your cash stack grows, you're going to have more and more items that you are not willing to give up. And no matter what your cash stack is, pick several items that you will never sell. Um, and that way you can play the game and make money or progress through the game however you normally do, whether it is through PVM or Slayer, PvP, all the fun things you like to do in the game. Make sure you have those basics so you are able to do them. The basics in my bank, all my barrow sets, I'm not willing to sell them. A whip and any dragon weapons I need for training. Uh, those are cheap, so those should be a given anyways. The more expensive basics for me would be an imbued heart, all of my combat rings, so archers, berserker, and seer's ring. A pair of dragonhide boots, basic range equipment. I believe that's it. Maybe a blowpipe. Blowpipe is also a good basic to have, but this is all relative. If you only have 10 mil cash total, let's say, a good idea of your basics may be a whip, a fury, um, dragon armor, or barrows pieces to train stats and Slayer and PVM with and all the rest. And the mats that you'll need to do Slayer and the things you like to do for fun, whether it's PvP, raids, or whatever. But if you're doing raids, you're probably going to have a lot more than 10 mil. So pick those basic items and never sell them. If I promise you, if you have those basic items that you need to have fun playing this game and make money playing this game, you'll regret selling them every time. You don't want to be one of those guys that's, oh, I got full Verax, but I want to sell it to buy this, and like, well, I regret selling my full Verax, and I can't really afford to get it back now because I can't really sell this item now. You don't want to be one of those type of guys. You'll always feel poor. 10 mil is a lot of cash. You can make do with a lot of it. Like I said, Whip, Fury, and a couple Barrows pieces and Dragon armor, and you've got everything you need to play the game and grow your wealth. So let's go to this. Let's go to the second thing here. The second thing is always keep a set amount of cash. This follows up on keeping your basic amount of items. You always want a basic amount of cash for those emergency purchases that you need. For example, if you need more sharks or scales or darts or whatever, potions, you name it. You need a set amount of cash to be able to buy all those things. And for me, despite my bank, I have no idea what it's valued at. That set amount is just a mil. I have stocked up most of everything that I need already, so I really only need a mil in cash to make sure, oh, I'm low on scales, or oh, I'm low on this, to buy whatever I need to keep going and doing the things I like to do. So pick that set amount of cash, and it's all relative, and that set amount of cash may be relative to your total bank value, your total bank value, and all the mats that you have saved up that you need to continue your PvP or PVM or whatever. Alright, so move on to number 3. Number 3 is diversify. So what this means, we're talking about investments. So when you decide to buy an item to merch or flip, uh, try and diversify. Try not put all your eggs in one basket. Oh, I'm hoping that this God sword is going to go up in this price, or oh, this one big item, this big purchase. It could be a big purchase of one item or a big purchase of a ton of items. Generally, try to diversify to protect your wealth. You may buy something that will take a very long time to get back up to a stable, higher price. Or you may buy something that has become dead content and you've lost a tremendous amount of money. That's it for that one. Let's go on to number 4. Number 4 is evaluating risk. So I might as well move over to our tool here. This is the Grand Exchange on the Old School RuneScape homepage. So here's the Old School RuneScape homepage right here. And under Community, just click Grand Exchange. This is a great resource. And the item I'm going to be using today that is a great example, that's a very common item and it's a great example for this video, are cannonballs. And that's actually what I'm currently investing in. So how do you evaluate risk? So here's the Grand Exchange chart right here. It's very straightforward. Here's on the y-axis we have gold, the value of the item. And then on the x-axis we have time. And each dot right here is a day. So you can look at how the prices of items change on a day-by-day basis. And we've got different tools here. This shows the perspective of the price of the item variance in a month. And here is the trend, right? So the trend for the month is downward, and you can clearly see that. I don't find this trend tool particularly useful because all you got to do to observe a trend is look at the highest point, look at the lowest point, and take an average of that. And the average of that is right down the middle and then slopes down. So keep in mind when you're buying an item, the first thing when you're looking to invest in an item, the first thing that's going to pop up is the 1 month tab. And that may not always be the best tab to look at. As you can see, the 3 month tab gives a totally different picture. You can see, wow, the cannonballs were worth 190 coins back in December, January, and now they're at 164 coins. And then you can look at 6 months and look at an even bigger picture. And you want to use these graphs to evaluate risk and when is the best time to buy an item. So no matter what month you look at, what tab you look at, what timeline you look at, the trend is going down, right? Cannonballs are going down. You can look at the 1 month change, 3 month change, and 6 months change. And so even if we go all the way back to 6 months, you can see that the baseline for cannonballs, the lowest price that cannonballs have ever been, is 153 coins. They're currently at 164. And at 3 months and at 1 month, they're currently the lowest price that they've ever been in about 4 months. So this is what you want to look for this is exactly what you want to look for when buying an item. You want to see, it's falling in price. It's absolutely crashing in price, right? This is an item that everyone trades and needs all the time, cannonballs. People are always buying and selling cannonballs. And you know what rock bottom is. Rock bottom is around 160 here. And you can kind of see that. I'm just kind of interpreting that here. Here's the lowest dip, right? But that dip rebounded in 2 days. So it went from 153 all the way back up to 159 in 2 days. So 160 is gonna be like the threshold for cannonballs. Once the price gets around 160, people may think, that is such a bargain for cannonballs. I'm going to start buying cannonballs, and that's when the price may shoot up. You really want to when you are a buyer, you want to put your mind into, you want to put your self in the shoes of other potential merchers and buyers as well. Because most people tend to buy and try and buy and merch an item when the price is going up. They see that the price is going up and like, oh, the price is going up, I better get it so I can have it while the price is going up. That's not the way you want to do it. In order to make the most money, you want to buy something when the price is going down. That will allow you to easily buy mass quantities of the item and get it for the lowest price. So cannonballs is a great example of a low risk item with high potentials for high margins because you can see its price, its rock bottom price is around 160 gold, and it's at its lowest price in 3 months. And there's nothing in the updates of the polls to suggest that cannonballs are going to be dead content. So it's right now it's a safe bet to buy cannonballs. This may shoot you, everything is, no one can predict the market, but this is looking like this is going to rebound at least to around 170 within a week. Within a week's time, it may rebound to 170 or a couple days' time. Who knows? So that was a long chat on evaluating risk, but I'm trying to get across the concept of looking at these graphs right here and evaluating the risk. You want to look at trends across all months and say, okay, if this item ended up being a bust, what is the absolute rock bottom price? What is the most I realistically would be losing if I bought it at a certain price, and this is the rock bottom price. All right, so let's move on to the next one. And I talked about this briefly. Follow updates and polls. So we'll head on over to the poll booth here. So I'm making this video during the Theater of Blood update poll. And this is very significant to pay attention to when evaluating risk, because polls and content, future content, can decide what becomes dead content and what becomes the new meta, obviously. And what we can see here that's significant for one item is the Theater of Blood, blah blah blah. Should we add a Bastion potion which increases range and defense levels? Same thing for Battle Mage potion, mage and defense levels. What you notice here in the item list for ranging potion, there is no dwarf weed. So we'll take a look at dwarf weed right now and see what's going on with dwarf weed. I haven't done much research into this before. I just noticed this before. Dwarf weed right now, according to this poll and is passing currently, has the potential of becoming dead content. Why is that? The new meta may be this range and defense potion. That's not necessarily always going to be the case, because there may be situations where you don't need defense at all. There's plenty of ranging situations in RuneScape where you don't need defense at all, and people may buy range potions made with dwarf weed, obviously, over this, I guess, the Bastion potion, yeah. But generally, dwarf weed has the potential to become dead content, because right now for a range potion, the expensive mat has always been Wine of Zamorak, and depending upon how easy these vials of blood are to obtain or make, that may be the nail in the coffin for dwarf weed right here. But this is all just my opinion. This is all skeptical, right? This is more evaluating risk. But this is just one example of using updates in polls and what is going to be implemented in the game to evaluate risk for purchasing an item. It may look like it's a good idea to buy dwarf reed, right? Because it's crashing and it is going up a little bit, and it may go back up to 800. Who knows? But it depends on how easy these Bastion potions are to make. If they're really easy to make and don't cost much to make, this may be, like I said, the nail in the coffin for dwarf weed. It may be dead content. They may add another potion later to put it to use again, but that's even more long term than this right here. And this update right here is medium to long term in terms of an investment. All right. So let's go to the next one. I've talked about this earlier. Use merching as passive income. I'll quickly go over this one. That's how I view merching. And if you want to have the most fun playing this game and make, in my opinion, make the most money, you want to have your method of making money, your main method, whether it's PVM or Slayer or scaling or whatever, right? And then do merching on the side, have stuff waiting to buy and sell in the Grand Exchange on the side, so you don't really have to work to do that. Okay, number 7, keep inflation/surplus items in mind. Now what does that mean? Now inflation is a continual problem in old school RuneScape, and you can see the effects that it's had in RS3. Now, inflation in RuneScape is a bit different than inflation in real life. There's really no regulation. There's no limit to how much gold can be produced, how much GP can be produced in RuneScape. And I'm not going to even go and look at RS3, but RS3 is a prime example of inflation gone totally wild, and there's two primary things that are responsible for inflation in RuneScape. And that is gold being put in the game, obviously, but the thing that I don't think most people think about is how many players are playing the game and how many players are coming into the game, but mainly how many regular players are currently playing the game. Because obviously if there's more people playing the game, they're going to use and hold on to more of that gold. If there are not very many people playing the game, there's going to be all this gold and no one's going to be using it. In that case, inflation is going to go up and the value of items is going to skyrocket, i.e. you can look at party hats or any as a rare item or any type of useful item in the game, like an Elysian or whatever, Twisted Bow in old school RuneScape, any of the useful items, keep an eye on those items because that is a good indicator of inflation. The rare and the useful items. So if you want to have an idea of the rate of inflation or the effect of inflation currently, take a look at those. And we'll take a look at one right now. We'll take a look at a Twisted Bow. So, the general trend for Twisted Bow has been up and up and up and up. So the rate of I have no scientific way of calculating the rate of inflation in RuneScape or whatever, but if you want to see, if you just want to get a quick general idea of what inflation is looking like, you are seeing, yes, items are generally more valuable than gold right here because an item is rare and as useful as a Twisted Bow, right, has been doing nothing but going up. You can look at the trend, doing nothing but going up. We'll take a look at something like an Elysian. How do you spell that shit? Elysian. We'll look at that. Elysian's probably going to be a little more volatile, but same thing here. So even over the past 6 months, we can see that a rare and a useful item like an Elysian is going up in price. It's doing nothing but going up in price. So right now, currently in the game, items are generally hold their value better than gold. Now, there's always exceptions for items um, that don't hold their value as well to gold, and that can be something like, obviously, something that's completely useless like burnt fish, or even some random seeds like the hop seeds and all the rest. Um, those they may something like a hop seed. Let's just look at, I guess, Yanilian. Uh, let's look at that. Oh, they're actually a little bit. They're actually a bit more than I thought. Okay. Well, maybe this isn't a good example because you can look at the same thing here. Maybe they're useful for something. I was just trying to think of an item that's completely useless, but maybe this is used for some brewing or whatever. But even with this, you can see something like a Yanilian seed holds its value better than gold. And that's generally going to be the case. But you do, in terms of, I said the first thing is inflation, the second thing is going to be item surpluses. So what's the example of an item surplus? Let me try and find one. Maybe something like a dragon sword. How much is that? Dragon sword. Okay. This is probably a good one here. So, for Dragon Sword, high level accounts farm the absolute shit out of raids, and one of the more common drops out of raids is a Dragon Sword. Um, and even though a Dragon Sword may be worth 500k, there are so many alternates for it, and there may not be enough players in the game that are willing to pay that type of price for that item when there's so many other alternatives to Dragon Sword, like a Granite Sword or Brine Saber, you know, Scimitar, whatever. Um, so that's an example of an item surplus. Yes, this may be valued at 500k, but it's not holding its value relative to gold very well. Let's say you bought this item at 800k back in December, November. You bought it at 800k, and you just held on to it up until now. You would have lost 300k. Holding on to that 800k would have been better value than holding on to this item right here, Dragon Sword. And the reason is there's too many Dragon Swords, really, and there's not enough demand for the Dragon Sword. There's plenty of other alternatives and better options than it. All right, let's go on to the next one. Uh, Buy at low activity, sell at high activity. What does that mean? So do the majority of your buying of more frequently traded items such as scales or bandos or whatever, um, Armadillo God Sword. If you want to buy something at a lower price, buy it during the week. Uh, And then peak time, Friday through Sunday, right? That's when most people play the game. That's when most people are on the game. That's when generally items are going to be sold at a higher price. Examples, like I said, Armadillo God Sword, maybe a Dragonfire Shield. Um, you know, basic popular items that players want and use to play the game. Scales to charge their blowpipe, darts, whatever. Um, that should be it for that. Avoid long-term investment in expensive mats. So another good example, let's see, Wine of Zamrock. And excuse me for going on a ton about this, but I talk a lot, but I talk a lot because I feel this stuff is important. I'm trying my best to convey this type of information. I love economics. I love this stuff, so I'm going to do my best to convey it to you. So this Wine of Zamrock, I think, is a perfect example of an item not to invest in. And it's a terrible item to invest in now. Um, I think it was last week or this week, Jagex was talking about changes to the game that would reduce the amount of the bots in the game and blah, blah, blah. As a result, people keeping up with current, news and polls and all the rest. they're thinking, oh, there's less bots in the game. That means less bots are going to be farming Wines of Zamrock. So the prices of Wine of Zamrock are going to go up. And sure enough, uh, remember how I talked about earlier, people see the price of an item going up and they kind of jump on it and the price goes up just to get on that gravy train, right? So in terms of a short-term investment, this may or may not be something good to buy, right? You're going to have to pay a pretty price for it right now because it's absolutely skyrocketing in price. It went up 3% in one day, which is, tremendous to make a 3% profit margin one day. Um, so in short term, it may be good investment. Long term, I think all mats are a bad idea because generally when it comes to mats and especially mats that are expensive, players complain, oh, it's too hard to get this mat, blah, blah, blah. And eventually, Jagex releases an update or pulls an update or whatever that makes that item more common. You've seen this with all the mats, all the secondaries that were released with Nightmare Zone, the buffs to the Tower of Life, the buffs to picking double fungus and Mort Mire. All these updates have been in response to players complaining, oh, this item is too expensive, this secondary is too expensive. So long term, it's just my opinion, don't invest in items like secondaries, right? That are expensive. That's like a prime target for Jagex to look at that and say, hey, that's not fair. That's really too expensive for such a common item. We're going to make it easier to get. And people are complaining on Reddit, so we're going to make this item more common. So stay away from this. This is a perfect example of something you don't want to buy, right? Everyone has caught on to the idea, oh, bots are gonna be not gonna be able to collect Wines of Zamrock anymore. So let's buy as many as we can. Uh, as a result, the price is gonna go up. So let's buy as many as we can. Right, people have already caught on to that idea. Yes, the prices of Wine and Zamrock are going to go up in the mid to long term. So if a graph looks like this, you're already too late. Don't try and buy the item. I think we're on number 10. Number 10 basically is kind of what I've already talked about. Be cognizant of future quality of life updates and / future updates. So yeah, I've already pretty much covered that. I do want to go into one more thing. So Theater of Blood is a big update. So I do want to, like, when you have an update like that, right? And you're looking of items to invest in to buy before the update comes, and the price of that item just absolutely skyrockets. It goes up 3 times the price. How many times has this happened to you where, Jagex released an update and the item related to that update just absolutely jumped off the walls in price, and you're like, man, I really wish I bought that item. I'd be so rich if I bought this many of that item or whatever. This happened to me after I quit, and my account got hacked. My main account got hacked, but I had a bunch of Zamorakian spears on my main account. Now, I did actually have them and keep them, but I just quit. But the Zamorakian spears, when God Wars first came out, were almost completely worthless. They were just used for, I guess Corp was released later, but they were just used for Corp. But after Corp and the Zamorakian Hasta got released, I mean, spears jumped up to 10 mil. And if you bought just 10 at 700k each or whatever, you more than made 1,000% profit on each spear. You went from spending 7 mil to something to now you have over 100 mil bank just by buying 10 Zamorakian spears. Now the story is kind of different, right? You can look at Hasta. and with the Garzi rapier likely to pass, the Hosta is falling in price. It still has its place, and I think it always has its place because um, it's a unique weapon that uses all three styles of uh, all three attack styles in terms of slash, crush, and stab. But yeah, it's definitely going to take a pretty permanent hit from the Grazi Rapier, even though that Rapier is going to be probably extremely rare, uh, on the level of a Twisted Bow or close to it. All right, I've rambled on long enough. Uh, Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope I got my points across well. Those are my top 10 tips for merching. And the trick, just be patient and don't put all your eggs in one basket. This is Two Heads Up. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.